You know, telling you five on this group the other night.
Who did?
Tony. He had a yellow hair. Is this a-
Yes. We're waiting on you. Whenever.
Wait, I got to get started.
Sir, how are you going?
Hey, I'm better. Hello there.
How are you?
Have you been up to see the creek?
Not yet. We've been working, doing some other stuff, trying to get things in there. It is on the list of things to do.
Well, let me know when you're coming.
Where's everybody at?
I don't want you to.
This is kind of it. Yeah. David. We're saying David Neal. I just have. So we're all here and I'm gonna say. I consulted with my lawyer and we have decided that we do have a quorum. It's a 5-minute member board and 3 of us are here, so we have a quorum. And let's take a minute to gather ourselves and focus ourselves. Okay. So. Agenda. If anybody needs an agenda, there's a couple of copies up here. Right in front of you. There's minutes and agenda. That's probably not either one of those. It's a scrap. Somehow ended up. I stapled things together. Should be easy to grab a packet or two. Okay, so take a moment to look down the list there. My tendency, because we're missing a couple of people, would be to kind of work an abridged version of this agenda with reports, with most of the old business, and we have the two items that are on for new business that are important. Is this the best time to be addressing new stuff is my question. So somebody wants to move adoption of agenda? Oh, that's that. Yeah, thank you. This came from notes that got passed on. So, okay, so moved. Seconded. Everybody agree? Go with the agenda. Okay. Okay. And minutes. I passed the minutes out a month or so ago. These are from January, which is really the last time we had a meeting. Question in my mind whether we should adopt those or table them until next time. Okay. All right. Okay. So no objections, meeting minutes are adopted. Public comments. We do have people here. Anybody want to make a comment? No. No. It's good to see you, Ben. Good to see you. Okay, so reports. Since we last met, we have lost a member and we've gained a member. Maggie Ray, as I'm sure y'all know, resigned from the committee, and then at the last board member meeting, Ed Kramer was appointed as a new member of the board. Ed had a prior commitment for today and is out of town, so he was not able to attend today. So he'll be sworn in and become a active member of the committee at our next meeting. At least that's the plan. Phil was planning to come, had an urgent issue that came up and was not able to be here today. So much of my attention has gone this last little while to the committee and the organizational issues that we have, and I'm not having much more coming into my mind, although there are several things we're working on. We did receive our annual renewal packet from Tree City USA, which I put on display over here. Everybody wants to see it. Consists of a flag, a little sticker thing, and the things that go on the street signs that say 8 years. It'll say 8 years instead of sound. Oh. Okay. So there's the little thing that goes on the street signs that come with the packets, and there's a little kind of bronze colored sticker thing that I'm not sure what they intend to do with it. It's a Tree City thing. It's on the table over there if you want to take a look at it. Is there any place that we have photographs? For example, you could something, stick it to a photograph or something, as a, I hadn't seen them. I'll take a look. I didn't know where to look. Yeah. Yeah, it's a little thing like that, says Tree City on it. And maybe the number of years or whatever, so. Didn't know what to expect, but it's nice to have stuff. And we have a banner that we can fly or attach to tables or whatever. That was a surprise. So Ben, do you have report?
The only thing, Mr. Chairman, I'm actually gonna miss this. Actually, the only thing I have to report is that staff is pulled up or it's in the beginning processes of its budget preparation for the year beginning July 1. And if anything that the tree board has, they want to put forward in the form of the budgetary matter, let us know as quickly as possible.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I've been thinking about budget. I wasn't sure of the timing, so we should maybe if we, maybe should include that in our agenda here today a little bit as well. Public Works.
The only thing I have to report on today is in the last 2 months, Public Works, with the help of Kyle Patton Tree Service, has removed 14 additional trees that were not on the original inventory that we have. Several at the gate, I think 9 at the gate, and then we had some up around the college area. And then we had a couple of trees that were close to private residences that were in the right of way that we took down as well. And Mr. Mason, if Barry wanted me to get with you and just let you know that he needs to chat with you about a tree up near Miss Maggie Ray's house to get on the list. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. So last I heard you said there were 40 trees left to do from the original list. If you take 14 away, that would make 26.
Well, the trees that we actually
Plus.
took down, I don't think were on the original list. Some of them were ash trees that had just been noticed at the gate, and then there was a couple of maples and an oak that were leaning, that had just kind of started leaning in the last 6 months. I definitely don't think they were on the original inventory. So we still have, I don't know the exact number, but I'm sure it's in between 30 and 40 trees from Louisiana Avenue up Graybeard Trail.
So maybe we should have a conversation with Andy Cleninger about this, because my understanding is that when last time we applied for funds to help with tree inventory, it was denied, and basically the reason was because we hadn't finished the previous list.
Sure.
And we've been sort of in that situation, kind of stuck now for really a couple of years. So we need to figure out a way to deal with the situation so that we can do that. I mean, he's been recommending a different approach to it. And I think but I'm feeling like we really need to have a conversation and have a plan developed with the state forestry people.
Barry and I and Drew had talked to Andy the last time we were in Durham or Winston-Salem. I can't remember. It may actually been Greensboro, but he had mentioned doing some stuff in-house, and trying to save the town some money. As far as Public Works goes, trying to knock out the tree inventory is a very important thing on the plate. But unfortunately, we we have our hands full and try to do as much tree work as possible. We were hoping to shut down around spring break, which we did get all the stuff at the gate, but those were immediate dangers. So we were just trying to get the stuff around the gate that was causing, some problems, and then move on to the actual inventory.
So I haven't tried to talk with him myself, but is he have the same basic attitude that we need to make progress with the old list before we can move on?
I do agree with that. I think he says we need to try to get the inventory that we have knocked out. That way, when you start a new one, you're starting fresh.
Okay. Well, I still want to see if we can find our way to a plan. Somehow. I mean, I understand the issues that Public Works is dealing with, and that's very understandable. But, we're also just kind of stuck. Okay, so that brings us through reports at this point. And next item on the agenda is old business, which I have labeled here as board organizational. So I have a lot of concern about the non-functionality of our board. Because when we were not able to meet last month because nobody was here except me. And when we have too many people absent, even if we have a quorum, you lose a lot of the sense of being able to move forward with the work of the committee. And I thought if with major perspectives here represented here, today might be well used to talk a bit about what we can do. I'm of the opinion that that we need to grow the board, to have maybe add 2 members so that we have it's harder, we're less impacted by somebody being absent, and maybe we'd be able to move on with actually doing some projects.
Well.
Okay. I'm not necessarily opposed to increasing the size. We would need to obviously revise the ordinance, so that would take some time. You're probably, though, not going to solve your quorum requirements. Your quorum situation by virtue of that, in the sense that or maybe slightly, you're still going to need to get 4 people at each meeting. Although you'll add 2 people, you're going to increase the number by 1 in the event that you need to get. But I don't have a problem. I can say from the commission standpoint, it is sometimes difficult to get people to serve on boards. Now, hopefully the tree board would attract some more folks, but that'll require some recruiting of people to serve on the board. But another alternative does this time frame seem to be a problem for folks? I mean, I'm new to the board, so I don't know what an afternoon or evening meeting.
We haven't really had that conversation, so I don't know. Personally, I can be flexible on that.
Yeah.
The one factor related that to me is that we're at the very end of the month, and it put some constraints on what we can do as a board when like last month, the last day of the month is the meeting, was the meeting
Right.
scheduled. And when we're that far down the line of things, it really affects how you can do business.
And I'll say on my part, I'm typically out of town the last week of the month, so,
Okay.
you know, it's. And I don't know if other people have that, but you're right. I mean, things do sort of happen at the end of the month. People make plans.
Brett, Angie sent me a list the other day of when all the meetings occurred. You want me to run, go see if I can get that list again?
All the meetings you said?
Yeah, when all the meetings occurred, what time of day, which day they met, and maybe we could slip in another time. Go do that.
Yeah, that could be helpful. I
Okay.
had a conversation with her that we would, I told her I was thinking about this and she didn't give me a list, but I didn't ask for it either. So it'd be helpful. Yeah.
And that doesn't mean we don't look to add members too, but I just think the whole quorum
they're
thing, because I
interrelated, I
sensed
understand.
it. You're right. We were having trouble with a quorum, so let's attack it from as many ways as we can. If a better meeting time, is going to help, let's do that. I mean, I also find a lot of people have, I know myself, I schedule a lot of things in the morning. People do things in the morning. And I tend to set afternoon. I tend to have most of the meetings I attend in the afternoon. It just seems to work out better. But again, I don't know. I'm new to this board, so.
The 9:30 is a traditional time for this committee, but I don't know why.
Yeah, well,
It's better
certainly.
than 9. I'll say that.
There's nothing in the ordinance that prohibits us from setting our own time that we think makes the most sense. We don't have to do that today. We could, ask Philip what works for him. But I just think getting, the most convenient time possible, date and time possible, is another way we ought to go about it. And again, I don't have any objection to adding a couple folks. Just note, we'll have to recruit them because they just don't fall out of the trees on us when these boards
Right.
meet. And what happens, and I just to explain the process, all the boards expire once a year, and so you get a list. We did just a couple months ago of 7 or 8 positions that need to be filed, and we have to go out scurrying and recruiting. We're not just recruiting somebody for this board, we're recruiting the town is for 5, 6 different entities, each with vacancies. So it's a little bit of a chore, not complaining about it, but it'll be adding two more to, but to the list we have to fill every once in a while. So, but again, I have no problem with it.
So do you, one thing I've thought of doing is to raise these questions with the town council and just explain it. Would that be bothersome? Would it be, do you think, possibly helpful if people became more specifically aware of tree board issues?
Certainly you can come before the town council and the tree board can anytime it would like to make a report, or, or I can report on behalf of the tree board if you can't make it. But there's nothing that prohibits you from every month, during the public comment, advising the council of anything that happened at the tree board meeting you think needs to be brought to their attention, or other matters related to the tree board. Wouldn't have to be related to the meeting. But that would come during the public comment. Again, if you had something specific you wanted me to say for whatever reason, or if you weren't here and you wanted me to say something, there is a commissioner comment section on the agenda,
Right.
For me to speak. But otherwise, the public comment. And I don't think there's any reason why you couldn't, I haven't been on the commission but a couple of years, ask Angie to put up an item on the agenda if you had a specific major thing you want to talk about. For example, recommending that we modify the ordinance to increase the number of members of the tree board.
Right.
So that would need to be put on the agenda. We would need a draft. And it would, need to be processed like any ordinance revision.
Mhm. Yeah, I understand it's a process that we have to do. We can't just arbitrarily make our own decisions on things.
That's a no-go.
No go? Okay.
Just cut out the thing. Can't reproduce it.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No problem. Well,
It's great. I see.
Remember, we're being recorded. We need to use the microphone.
I'll send it to y'all.
okay. Well, I think that the idea is we're gonna maybe get with Philip and the other council members and say, here are 2 or 3 other times we could meet. Is this, we want to maximize the convenient a convenient meeting time so that we get a quorum and as many people attending.
So, Arrington, I don't know. We've been talking about the issue of quorum. We've been talking about adding members to the board or raising that issue. Also, the time of meeting, and Mason was suggesting that perhaps a different meeting time later in the day or something like that might be.
And earlier in the month.
Yeah, and earlier in the month. Those are the 2 issues.
Yeah,
I think late in the month is a problem.
Let me get that list to you and then we can look at it and it'll give us a better guide
Okay.
as to when we can meet.
Okay, so the plan would be to look for, if you could provide that list, then we can, everybody, including those that are not here, could take a look at that and we can have some, and maybe they'll give us some direction about when we might consider meeting.
And as far as getting new members, is this something that we can advertise publicly? I noticed something came, maybe it was Montreat Minute or something, that was advertising boards that needed members. Please volunteer for.
Yes, we would do that. But again, we can't add members without amending the tree ordinance, so. That will have to be done over a series, couple of months anyway, 2 or 3 months to get that.
I'm not familiar with what the ordinance says, so.
For the tree board, the tree board, the number of members and how they're appointed are all set forth in the tree ordinance itself. So you could not increase the number of members of the tree board without modifying the tree ordinance.
Yeah, and that's, at the moment, the board consists of 3 at-large members that are appointed by the Board of Commissioners. That's myself, Phil Arnold, and now Ed Kramer. Those are the at-large members of the board. And Ed is still coming on. And then there's the additional voting members, which include the environmental commissioner and the land care person. So that's the 2 of you. So we have total 5 members of the board, and a quorum then is 3.
And there's an ex officio non-board voting member also who's the public works director. So.
Who's ex officio? Who's ex officio?
I'm sorry.
Who is ex officio?
You're ex officio, I'm ex officio, and the public works are ex officio. You and I are voting ex officio.
And Daniel's representing the public works today, so, but non-voting.
And I'm not sure, I've never heard of an ex officio voting member.
I haven't either. That's why I'm looking at you so funny.
Well, that's what it said. That's what the ordinance says.
Maybe there's some language there that needs to be.
Which
dealt
still makes me wonder about whether we got a quorum or not, but I'm not gonna, let's
yeah.
just assume we do. I mean, maybe we can clarify that when we, if we revise the ordinance, we'll make. But let's just cross that bridge.
So
Because
there's,
there's some other language in the ordinance talks about appointments for 3 years and you couldn't have 3 years appointments. for you. So we'll figure that out.
yeah, that one of the issues with that is that the way, if people resign and join, you can end up like this has happened this last time. All three at-large members ended their terms at the same time. You know, so you have a potential disaster if yeah. So we need to try to stagger things a bit. So which with Ed coming on now, that'll help a little bit in that regard because it'll be he'll not be on the same cycle.
Lancaster's that way too.
It affects Lancaster a little bit less because there's more people on the group.
It all be staggered.
Okay, so we'll take a look at it. We'll look at the potential dates and I guess in our next meeting, we'll try to have a plan.
Sounds good. Or even before our next meeting, we could. Done that.
Well, that raises a question. Should we try to set up an extra meeting to deal with that kind of issue?
I think we can communicate by email to you with our particular thoughts about.
Okay,
I don't know that we need to organize a meeting, publish and all that stuff.
all right.
And worry about getting a quorum there. So,
Yeah, well, as you know, I'm very concerned about transparency and so I want to make sure everybody's not, and that's, I think on back to the question of making announcements about open positions. I think we can, and I think we should. I mean, I think that when things are not done publicly like that, it runs the risk of becoming not so open. So.
So when should that get started?
Well, if you could provide us with the list of when things are scheduled, the next step would be I'll poll the group and see what people think about what might work, and we'll figure it out together what the next step might be.
I mean, is that a Montreat minute deal?
Oh, for the announcements?
Yeah.
I assume so, yeah. We could ask Angie to publish it as a minute.
Oh, Tom, who do you go to for the Montreat minute? I didn't go into Tom.
I think you can go to either.
Okay.
Well, I can send something to both. So. But actually adding people is down the line a little ways because the next step really would be
We're just talking
rewriting
about.
them.
We're just talking about changing the meeting time right now.
Right.
Oh, okay. So any other thoughts about organization? We've got the number of members, the schedule of meetings.
I think Philip Arnold has mentioned to me in a conversation. There's some, I think that probably part of the discussion needs to be, do we need to meet every month or should we meet every other month?
Frequency of meetings.
Yeah.
Any other issues that we haven't covered in what we've said? I'm not thinking of any, but if anybody thinks about it, additional issues that relate
let
to
you know.
this, let me know.
Well, delve a little bit further into this every other month or monthly meetings. Help me with that. Talk to me a little bit more about that. Right.
I
Uh,
only said, Arrington, that Philip
Yeah.
indicated he thought that it probably would be appropriate. He wasn't sure there was enough business that we were conducting monthly, that it wouldn't be just as effective to meet every other month.
Okay, I got that.
Okay.
I got that. So do we take action on that? What do we do?
No, we'll just talk about it in the discussion about. the
It's-
meeting time and the place.
Well, yeah, it's an issue that comes up occasionally. Somebody has thoughts about that. It's never been done with a great of emphasis as far as I know. Nobody's asking for it to happen, but it's a thought that people have had. Personally, I tend to resist it a little bit.
Well, but let's just put it on the agenda
Yeah.
to gather information on, and we'll talk about it in the context of
Mhm.
everything else, and not talk about it right now. Brad,
Okay,
you want to have this discussion with everybody here,
right.
so.
Yeah, I wasn't going for a conclusion. I was
Okay.
expressing.
Well, but again, I think share your opinions on that issue. Like, I can't hear you. I'm not here to speak to Philip. So it was Philip's idea. So let's have the discussion.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. Something I refrained from saying a few minutes ago that is relevant to that is part of, I think, what attracts people to working with the board is the sense that board's doing something. You know, and what I'm working for is to try to get enough issues going that people will feel the need to be present and active. So that I'll just leave it at that. I think that there's an
I
interaction,
understand.
so.
I understand, and and I'm not disagreeing with you. The other feeling though is we're not doing enough to warrant and this was Phil's comment. We're not doing enough to warrant meeting monthly. So you're talking about a quorum problem and people making it important to be at the meeting. If they think the meeting for meeting's sake, they don't show up.
Yeah,
So
I know.
there's a tension.
There's other related issues, but I won't be.
Okay.
Tell me about this. This is a way that you could get something going. The Ivy League.
Well,
But I
let's
can't,
move, Eric, can we move down the agenda?
I think that's it on the agenda.
We're not even to Tree City. We're still on page 1.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
all right.
Excuse
You
me.
don't.
We're still on page 1.
All right, okay. Excuse me.
Okay. I stapled them together. You might find one.
I don't have
Okay. All right, so we've done board or organizational,
Other stuff. Okay, I got it.
Tree City.
Okay.
I kind of covered Tree City in my report a while ago. We have the materials, we've have 8 years of membership, and that's good for this year. In September, we'll need to start working on application for the next year. And it's a process that takes a little while to do that. I need to talk with finance person for the town and make sure I've got some forms that we need to have for the budget side of what Tree Cities asks us for. So
Again, the Ben indicated you need to get any budget information into them right now,
Okay.
as they're compiling the budget.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. It's a little different from that, but I heard what he said. They need to know what we did do, not what we're going to do.
Okay, well, very good.
Demonstrate that we spend at least $2 per capita for the town. So it's pretty easy hurdle to go over. So if we're done with organization, we'll move on to Tree City. That's the thing with Tree City is the annual application and checking all the boxes for them. It's conceptually, it's not too hard, but there's lots of little niggling details. Takes us down to Arbor Day. Now, this is one thing that we do need to make a decision about. The tree, but there was conversation about Arbor Day being separated from native plant sale.
Are you suggesting that this coming month we separate Arbor Day from the
No,
plants?
that had been a piece of conversation over the last several months, but it doesn't seem like if that ever happens, this is not the year to do it.
Okay.
So basically, the decision is due Arbor Day on April 22nd, same day as native plant sale.
Do we need a motion for that?
That's the thing we would need to. Authorize me to go to the town council and ask the mayor and ask for an Arbor Day proclamation for the 22nd.
I'll move that we designate Arbor Day for 2023 to be April 22nd,
22nd.
sorry, April 22nd. And that we authorize the chairman of the tree board to request a proclamation to that effect from the town council.
So,
I agree. Good. Along with that, there's the question of what do we want to do with Arbor Day? And I had been thinking that chestnut would be a timely thing to do. But again, I'm finding it very difficult to get chestnut foundation people here. And last year I thought we had it all lined up and somebody got sick and there was nobody there. So I ended up doing a presentation myself. And it doesn't look like that this year is going to be any better. There are some videos of the chestnut chat that they do on every month or 2-month basis that are current topics with the foundation. And my thinking is that we could present an up-to-date chestnut chat, probably having to do with how they're moving ahead with the rolling out of we call them Darling 38 trees that are about to be sometime this year. They think they'll be approved to be begun to be distributed throughout the nation. And to learn about that, what's being done and what we can do to get in line to get some truly resistant trees. So
Are you talking about this is context of a program that's put on in the Brown Room during the process of the native Arbor Day and native plant
that's
sale?
right.
Okay.
The planners on the native plant sale are not wanting to have a lot of such presentations. But I think we want to claim one slot there, to try to get some of that information out. We could also do other things. We need to have a tree board table. And I've got materials that can go with that. But are there other thoughts that y'all might have that we could be working on for the Arbor Day?
Have you contacted Betty Douglas about that table?
I mean, I think your idea of trying to get that presentation is fine. Uh, I don't have any other ideas. In particular, I mean, the table, the proclamation, and a program or two is what's typically done. And I certainly think the chestnut new variety strain is a great topic to choose. And I think you've done a good job with that, figuring that out. I think we need to promote it so that we get a bunch of people in there, and maybe that will help spread the word about it. I don't know if there's anything about it we can pass out at our table. Are the chestnut people not coming at all?
They haven't found anybody yet.
Okay.
And it's
So Doug is no
because
longer-
they're going to the Hendersonville event on it's Earth Day. It's actually square on Earth Day, and everybody's doing Earth Day things, and so it's a mystery to me how you actually plug into those. Doug, who's the chair of the Carolinas region has come a couple of times. I haven't tried to contact him yet about that, so
Well, he always came, again, it's good, it's late. I mean, we've only got 3 weeks before this thing. It's a little over 3 weeks before it's here, so. But it looks like what's possible at this stage is getting a tree board table up, as you said, and putting this film together. I'm not sure there's anything more possible in the time frame allowed, other than maybe trying to get some publicity out about the Arbor Day film, chestnut film. And I'd be glad to help trying to maybe get some announcements in either the Montreat Minute or some of the other email town email things about that presentation to help promote it. But I don't know that, Brad, that given the time frame we've got now, there's anything practical that we can do. Wow.
What about the hemlocks? I know that hemlocks is associated with land care, but if they have, why can't they have two presentations, one at land care and one at tree board?
Well, but it's all the same thing. It's all the same day. It's
It
all the
is.
native plant sale.
It is.
And so what typically happens is the tree board doesn't get the hemlock people there. The Betty and Sherry, whoever's handling the native plant sale, would arrange for them to bring tables and invite them. So
Okay, so the invitation comes from Betty and
it's,
Elizabeth and them.
that's right.
I thought that we called in and said we need X number of tables. How would they know? Unless we called and let them know. I'm sorry, I'm getting Mason.
It's just always been part of the job description of the people running that event to organize all the tables.
True, but
Period. They're the point people, and they're the ones, I've run the event myself several times. They're the ones who call.
okay, all right.
All the different organizations that line up the tables, tell them where they're gonna be and so.
Okay.
so
Never been to one. Thank you.
yeah, so Yeah, I've had this conversation with Betty. She knows how many tables I think we need for tree board. We've talked about other people that might participate. I kind of ran ahead of the planning a bit to contact Chestnut Foundation myself early on so that they were aware.
Yeah, that's great to do that. Brad.
And all, but it hasn't come to anything. But you know, I've had that level of involvement. Plus, I made sure that Beth Frith, uh, who's doing that part of the planning, uh, yeah, that she's aware of what's needed. I don't know exactly what's happened in terms of her talking to Chestnut Foundation. They did express some frustration. Betty did, that they've been having difficulty getting Chestnut Foundation people. They've had different names and it's been hard to pin down for them. So there've been people working on it. It's just been hard to come to a conclusion to it. So because things are in transition with the native plant sale, the planners don't have a lot of experience with this either, although everybody's got plenty of energy and willingness to do things. It's just figuring out how to go about doing it. So I'm not having any complaints, except we don't have any new results yet.
Well, I would just suggest, Brad, maybe giving Doug a call, but that's all I've got to suggest.
I can do that. Okay, so I think that's about it for Arbor Day. This number 4 here is an artifact of earlier conversations. It may come around again, but so I think a little conversation under on these items on new business is in order. So there's been this idea floating around that we figure out how to coordinate around trees with land care and MRA and college. There've been some recent changes in land care, so the picture is not as clear as it was a couple of weeks ago. Another development is that the group that's working on this master plan, I attended a meeting not this month, but the previous month, and they were deciding to ask the tree board to somehow coordinate the conversation between town and MRA and college around what do we do with Monterey trees. And actually, for me, that's actually a good opening, because I've been wanting to have that kind of conversation with people for some time, but didn't really have a way open to it. So I'm looking forward to hearing from that committee, and hopefully we'll be able to move it forward. And I'm beginning to hear more along those lines too. Because I think we really, if we can work out a more of a general concept, generally accepted concept of what we're trying to do with the trees here in town, public and private as well, I think it would be a big step forward. So any other thoughts about that particular issue?
No, I think having those kinds of conversations is certainly within the bounds of what we're charged to do in the ordinance.
Yeah, we're responsible for public trees. Most of the trees are not public, but I think we're well positioned to address the questions that are there. So. Okay. Ivy League. My thought has been about Ivy League that we try to have a monthly Ivy League event. It's really about time to get started on that. That would involve publicity, getting in touch with some of the people who historically come to the events and inviting them to come by and try to have it at I think if we could do it, monthly for a few months, like same done day of the month kind of thing, it would be, could be a good thing. So I'm seeing Daniel nodding, and I'd appreciate your input on Daniel. How feasible does it sound to you to have an Ivy League event?
As far as Public Works is concerned, I'm sure we can make a time available once a month to spend a couple hours or an hour or whatever your final thought on that is, to try to help out the tree board in any way we can to take the ivy out on the right of ways,
So my thought there, Daniel, would be,
Brad, let me just, a monthly event, it's gonna be, how often do you do it now?
it's been more sporadic. If at one point it was monthly, it's been every couple of months, but only during the warmer months.
Yeah, because I've only been attending now for a number of months and only remember one, so
Mhm.
I'm just suggesting, and I don't have any problem with trying to do it monthly, but you may want to try to do it bi-monthly first and get that off the ground and get a regular crew going. You maybe, I don't want to stand in the way of ambition though. If you want to try to do it monthly, that's fine. It's just in the summer months, people's schedules are very, very busy. And the winter months are also difficult, so trying to do it monthly is going to be ambitious.
Again, Public Works is is able to donate, a small amount of time toward that. We would be happy to do it bi-monthly or monthly. Monthly is probably going to be, one of those things where, we just need to try to coordinate when Public Works can do it, because again, we have a full plate. I mean, there's no shortage of work for us to be doing, but again, we're here to support the tree board in however we can. And, once we kind of establish a regular schedule or, get a regular group of people going, I think that would be, I think it's a great idea. I think it just needs to be, try to form it up like we were trying to do last year.
Okay, so it sounds to me like you might think it might work better to do it bi-monthly to start.
I think at this point, I think bi-monthly would probably be a good idea. And that way it gives us, you've got a month in between to try to build on that group of folks that's going to try to be your core group of people who want to do this on a regular basis. Because again, we had a very sporadic showing of hands to help out last year. And I think the Ivy League was last year a fairly new idea. And so maybe we can try to get that up and running in a more fashionable way. But again, Public Works is always willing to do what we can if we've got the resources to do so.
Arrington, do you have?
Here again, I'm reluctant to ask anything because I don't know anything. But now you pull ivy from trees? What do you do with this ivy? Where you
So,
pulling it
yeah,
from?
we started here at the bottom of Virginia. I
Yeah,
haven't gotten very far up Virginia and the amount we've done. But what you need to do with trees that are being attacked by ivy is cut the ivy vines, and sometimes they're really small ones that are hiding behind the bark.
yeah, okay. So you,
That's why, so you cut them, you gotta cut them twice on each thing so that they don't go back together. And there's big ones and there's little ones and all. So when you get them well cut, then all the ivy above the cuts
dies.
and eventually it'll just fall out. So you don't really have to do things.
So your primary target is trees.
That's the way it's been. Now, there's plenty of ivy on the ground, and I would love to have a strategy where we could also pull up ivy on the ground.
Well,
The point is, it's a volunteer effort where volunteers get together in the morning, right, Brad?
Generally, that's what it's been.
In the morning, and I don't know what, I've never been to one, but the point is to get a volunteer group to go out and that goes out and it does this ivy treatment of whatever,
Mhm.
you know. But, and my point is, getting a volunteer group from scratch every month to go out is going to be very difficult.
oh, I agree. I think bi-monthly is definitely the,
I think bi-monthly, frankly, is ambitious already. I think monthly is doomed to failure. You won't go, they just won't show up.
all right, so you're not pulling back to Mount. You're not pulling ivy off of these 100-year-old stone walls that are gonna come down because they're covered with ivy.
No, those are on private property anyway, for the most part. So this has got to be on public land.
I wish we could get some homeowners to agree to let us help them do that, but that's okay.
Personally, I'd like to see it all gone
Well,
off the walls as well, but I guess that'll never happen.
But it's getting together a volunteer group or several, 2 or 3. How often, how long do you get together, Brad? 2 hours, 3
Couple of
hours?
hours.
Couple of hours. And again, particularly in the summer, that's going to be extremely difficult. I think every other month is going to be a lot to chew on, but I think it's a good idea to give it a shot, see if it works. If it works, then expand it to month.
So Daniel, could you look at your schedules and let us know an April date, a June date, and an August date?
I'll definitely talk to Barry about looking into that. But I think from our standpoint, and I know this is kind of back and forth with this, but if you set a date and a time, then we're able to knock that, put that into the calendar and then work around that 2-hour portion of the day. I think that would work better for our scheduling sake. So if if you can come up with a date and a time, then we know that's where I need to be for 2 hours on that day.
Okay.
I definitely will talk to Barry and say what's the best idea, or if we have any large projects coming up. I know we got some culverts that we're getting ready to replace. And that will be all hands on deck for us, but I'll let you know what Barry says, or get Barry to email you. But otherwise, I think it'd be easiest if you came up with dates and times and we were able to work around that.
Okay.
Sounds like it's in our court.
Yeah, so we'll need to come up with a date. So my thought is that we're talking about every other month, then April, June, and August would be 3 months.
I think that's fine. I think leaving July is one of the months we skip is definitely a good idea. You may want to, but that's, I'm not sure we're going to have, that sounds like a plan to me.
would suggest toward the end of April, so that it starts growing. And we can see it. Right now, it all looks dead. Let's give it a month to rejuvenate and then we'll attack it.
Okay, so that's about it for the agenda as published. Do you have any other thoughts or comments that we need to fill in? Okay, so the next meeting would be then on April 25th. Usual place and time. I'll be communicating this. Yeah, I'll tell you what, I'll do the minutes this month. We don't have a designated note taker today, so I'll do that. We need to be working out who's going to be doing those different roles. But I'll do it this month, and I'll send you minutes, and we'll be in communication.
Thank you, Brad.
Thank you all.
I got to run, go get that. I want to adjourn.
I think so.
Okay, I'm gonna run to the doctor.